What if your greatest failures were actually preparing you for your biggest calling? What if rejection, doubt, and setbacks were not signs to give up, but signs that God was shaping you for something greater? John Wesley was a man who faced constant rejection. Churches shut their doors on him, people mocked his methods, and even his early ministry was a complete disaster. And yet, he became one of the most influential Christian leaders of all time. How did he go from a struggling preacher full of self-doubt to igniting a movement that transformed millions? What made him keep going when everything seemed to be against him? Stay with me, because John Wesley's story is one that will challenge everything you think about failure, perseverance, and what it really means to follow God's call. John Wesley was born on June 28, 1703, in Epworth, England. He came from a deeply religious family. His father was a preacher, and his mother, Susanna Wesley, was a woman of deep faith who taught John and his siblings the importance of scripture and prayer. But life wasn't easy. When he was a child, his family's home caught fire, and John barely escaped with his life. His mother later told him that he was a brand plucked from the burning, a sign that God had a special purpose for him. Wesley went on to study at Oxford University, where he and his brother Charles formed a small group dedicated to prayer, fasting, and Bible study. They became so disciplined that people started mocking them, calling them Methodists, because of their strict methods of following God. But what started as an insult would later become the name of a movement that changed the world. Wesley's passion for God led him to become a missionary to America. In 1735, he sailed to Georgia, believing that he would convert the Native Americans and bring revival to the colonies. But instead of success, Wesley faced complete failure. His preaching had little impact, and his rigid methods made him unpopular. To make things worse, he fell in love with a woman named Sophia Hopke, but when she married someone else, he reacted so badly that he was actually taken to court. Humiliated and broken, Wesley returned to England in 1738, feeling like a complete failure. He questioned everything. Had he misunderstood his calling? Had he wasted his life? Was he even truly saved? For a man who had dedicated his life to God, this was his lowest point. But it was also the moment that changed everything. One night, Wesley reluctantly attended a small gathering on Aldersgate Street in London. As he listened to a reading from Martin Luther's commentary on Romans, something incredible happened. He later described it as his heart being strangely warmed. For the first time, Wesley truly understood that salvation was not something to be earned through good works. It was a free gift of grace through faith in Jesus Christ. That revelation transformed him. Gone was the doubt, the striving, and the fear of failure. Wesley now had an unshakable confidence in God's power, and from that moment, he became unstoppable. Wesley started preaching with a new fire. But there was a problem. The churches didn't want him. His message was too radical, and his passion was too intense. So, instead of preaching in churches, he took his message to the streets. He preached in fields, in marketplaces, and even on tombstones. At first, people mocked him, but soon crowds of thousands gathered to hear him speak. And when he preached, something incredible happened. People were convicted of their sins, lives were changed, and revival broke out. This was the birth of the Methodist movement. Wesley didn't just preach. He organized people into small groups called Methodist societies to help them grow in their faith. These groups focused on prayer, accountability, and living out the gospel in everyday life. And the craziest part? Wesley didn't slow down. He traveled over 250,000 miles on horseback, preached more than 40,000 sermons, and wrote over 200 books. He was a man on a mission, and nothing could stop him. With every great move of God comes resistance. Wesley faced intense persecution, People threw rocks at him, and religious leaders tried to shut him down. But Wesley never backed down. He famously said, "Give me 100 preachers who fear nothing but sin and desire nothing but God, and I care not whether they be clergymen or laymen. Such alone will shake the gates of hell." And shake the gates of hell he did. By the time Wesley was done, his movement had spread across England, transformed thousands of lives, and laid the foundation for modern evangelical Christianity. John Wesley passed away in 1791 at the age of 87. But his impact didn't die with him. Today, over 80 million people across the world trace their spiritual roots to the Methodist movement. Wesley's greatest legacy wasn't just in the sermons he preached or the churches he founded. It was in the message he carried, that God's grace is for everyone, that faith is meant to be lived out in action, and that no matter how many times you fail, God's calling on your life is still there. So, what can we learn from John Wesley? Failure is not the end. Wesley's biggest failures became the foundation for his greatest calling. True revival starts with a heart surrendered to God. His encounter at Aldersgate changed everything. Boldness in faith leads to transformation. He refused to let rejection stop him, and neither should you. The question is, are you willing to pursue God the way Wesley did? Are you willing to let go of fear and step into the life God has called you to live?